Welcome to Toussaint Warrior Trials. My name is Ade Toussaint Richardson, your host. This podcast is a place where I talk to various types of people about different subjects and challenges that they've had to overcome in life and the steps that they've taken to overcome these things. But not only that, it's a place where we hear different perspectives on life. Through these challenges, my guests have learned lessons and they've come through it with a different outlook on life, a different perspective, and they've learned more about who they are, and which has influenced how they are in the world. And that is certainly the case, at least that's my opinion, with the guest of the podcast you're about to watch, Jake Shartoff, who shares a little bit about his story, his journey with not only the challenge of dyslexia, but also this sort of seeming conflict that came out of that when he found out that he really enjoys storytelling, but he had to find a way to tell stories, to write stories, and to produce this while having what some may call a disadvantage of dyslexia. But I think, in my opinion, from talking to him, it has created a very new and interesting perspective on life. And he talks a little bit about his passion for storytelling and creativity in general, and very specifically as well, his writing story, his passion for writing stories, and also his love for video game and the stories that come out of video games, that connection, that part of video games, which we kind of explore different things surrounding that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please, if you have questions, comments, leave them in the comment section below. If you like the video, click the like button. And also always helps our page to share these videos and to subscribe. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy the episode. Hi, I'm here with Jacob Shartoff. Hey Jay, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm not doing much today. I'm just hanging out. I just got a lot of free time recently because I just like handed in my 3 weeks for my job, and I think my boss is like getting ready to take me off the schedule. So I have a lot of free time, which is good on that side. I mean, I'm not working, but it's also good because I can have time to just, I don't know, do hobbies or get ready for things. I don't know.
Well, I was really interested in speaking to you because I wanted to get your perspective on just your experience with dealing with dyslexia as you were growing up, and how that impacted you in the early years of your life.
Well, honestly, I don't. I guess I'm not like as the years go on, I'm not really. I don't really like fully remember how I was feeling, but I do remember like that I didn't know I really had like actually had dyslexia until um after high school. I didn't. I mean, I thought like my mom told me, "Oh, you have dyslexia or something," but I thought that was just kind of like a self-diagnosis type thing. Like it wasn't official, but it was official. I took tests in middle school, I think, or maybe in even before that, and I just didn't know about it. So I kind of didn't understand why I was having trouble reading or whatever. And I thought like, I don't know, I thought, oh, well, this is just I'm just not good at this. Like I'm not naturally good at working with this kind of thing. Um, and I mean, I don't know, it could be a good thing because I wasn't like some people think like, oh, once you know like that you have dyslexia, I guess like you might like try to hold yourself back or whatever, but because now I want to pursue like a writing thing. Like I want to do any kind of writing. I like writing generally, but and I may have not like there might have been like there's a chance I might have not like tried to do that if I knew I had dyslexia, but also not knowing I had dyslexia was really not good because it made me kind of insecure about that part of me. Like I thought, oh well, I can't like I just suck at reading. I just can't do it, you know. So or like I'm not trying hard enough. I'm just not good enough to, you know. But when I did know about it, then I it was good because I could like properly understand like how to maybe handicap myself for those like for the things I have trouble with for reading. Like I use a different font now, or I make the font bigger because I realize that that's really helpful. Or I use a Kindle sometimes if I'm reading books, which is not often, but when I do, I usually read it on like a Kindle because I can make the words bigger and it's helpful in that way. So
You know, and with other than the reading part of it, how has it impacted your storytelling and in your specifically your writing?
um I mean, I don't know if like it that specifically has I mean, it kind of does. Like the things that I write about particularly is I think it's called neurodivergence. I like writing characters that are kind of neurodivergent because I think, I mean, for me, it's easy to kind of relate to people specifically in like a school setting. Like, you know, oh, I've always not, I've never been like an A student or like even a B student. I've been like a C student, which is like, it's like an online term. I don't know. That's also might be a general term too, but I've seen that term thrown around. I might be one of those kind of students, I'm honestly. But I can relate to the people who have trouble like um fitting into the space that they think they should be in. But then I also like to try to write about like how they understand or how they find out what they're supposed to be doing with their life, you know, like instead of like, oh, I'm supposed to be in school, they say, oh, I'm supposed to be maybe doing something else in my life. I don't know. That's like an example. That's not specifically what I write about, but I like writing about characters who are like discovering what they like to do with their life, you know. So
And how has that journey been for you personally, discovering, that maybe you kind of didn't weren't like within that box, with those the labels and the categories that people usually try to fit others in. How did you deal with sort of forging your own um, authentic way, your own identity? And were there any obstacles or struggles along the way with that? With I don't know, comparing yourself with others or anything like that, or worrying about judgments or things like that.
yeah, I mean, I remember in school, specifically in high school, even before I knew I was dyslexic, like eventually, um, as I was working and I was really trying every time, I realized like through like just kind of working eventually that I realized that I'm not like enjoying like what I'm doing, you know? And then I kind of just accepted that I'm probably not gonna make like the best grades and it's okay. I mean, it's easy to like start comparing yourself to other people, especially when they're having like such a, I mean, what it looks like easy time. It's obviously not easy even for someone who is having a a good, I mean, like having a better time doing the work at school or doing work that you might have trouble with. But I've realized that at least in school, this is when I kind of get got over that like insecurity of like maybe that I'm not like good at this. Like even if I'm just not good at doing school, like I can be good at other things, and this is just not my thing. I'm just not going to put all the effort I can into it. And that might not be 100% of a good thing because that means I'm also not completely trying for my grades, right? Which is kind of a not the best thing. But I mean, I kind of just figured that's kind of the sacrifice. Like I can't push myself to be the I guess I can't push myself in a space I'm not really fit in, you know.
I know that you love video games, and what impact has video games and storytelling in connection with the video games played in your life in terms of your creative expression and is there a catharsis to playing video games and storytelling?
Yeah, so it's funny because I think I found out that I kind of enjoy experiencing storytelling through video games, and that's how I found out that I really enjoy writing. It's kind of like I was playing the video games. I think it was like throughout quarantine, I was playing like a bunch of video games because I had so much time on my hands. Um, and I think like I mean, I grew up in a time in Gen Z, the kind of video games Gen Z play typically are games with a lot of story. Even if like that's not the case all the time, because I actually it's more split. Like it's depends on the audience really, because there are a lot of people who are just playing video games for the video game part. Like they play multiplayer online games, and that's cool. But there's a big like group of people who also play video games, and they need a story, you know. And I kind of grew up in that time. I mean, I'm in the middle. I kind of like any video game, but I also especially really love the storytelling in them. And I think after I came to back to high school, weirdly, it's like kind of like I said, I actually did mention it before, but it's kind of like backwards for me not trying in high school because I did find out that I'm good at writing like essays and stuff, and I do like learning about the stories that they tell me to read in high school. So it was kind of like me finding out, oh, I kind of do like creating these stories, you know, through but in my mind, if I'd ever think about making a story, it'd be through like a video game. Like it's always like I would just I mean, I guess I don't know. I honestly I've always been like making kind of stories, you know, when you're playing with your toys and stuff, you make stories. But even when I would even like if I were to create stories in my mind that I even at the time I didn't know. Oh, I don't, I'm not gonna actually write this out. This is just something I think about because I'm bored, you know. But even then, it would be, oh, this is obviously a video game. I don't know why in my head it's always just, this is a game. But then maybe even when after high school, and then I realized I could really make these stories something crazy. I realized afterwards that, oh, maybe it could be a show, but it still feels like making a game would be more fun for me. I don't know. That's kind of, yeah.
What's the process for you when you're coming up with a story? Is it character? Is it a situation, or like what do you see in your mind and when you're coming up with a story?
It's kind of, I don't know, it kind of depends. I mean, I think my stories are definitely, maybe it's because I'm an early writer, but I think my stories are kind of influenced by um the things that the media that I'm currently absorbing, like what movies I'm watching or what games I'm playing. But typically, if it's like my own story, I kind of take like a character idea, and I think that comes with like a world idea because the character is already kind of living in a certain kind of way in my mind. Like they're already kind of living a certain life. And so that kind of comes with the world, and then the world kind of builds around that, you know? And then I think I start creating more characters. Sometimes I even take things from real life too, which it's not a really it's a pretty obvious thing to do is to take stuff from real life. storytelling. But I mean, like I'll take like a maybe even sometimes I'll take a person from my life, which again is also a normal thing to do. But for me, this is kind of revolutionary because I'm just starting. But I'll do that, and I'll put that, I guess, into this story and see where that what happens there. And then the world in my mind also starts. Okay, sorry. Anyway, the world also starts building uh all right, up, like I
Mhm.
guess, like because I start thinking about the world with the characters and like the features of the world, and so it starts kind of like building up all together at the same time eventually.
You were talking about that you tend to lean towards video games when you're conceiving a story and animation type of medium. Why is it that you lean towards that rather than live action narrative? And I'm just wondering if the video games and animation allows for more expansive, to expand your imagination more than than you might be able to do with live action.
I remember when I was like listening to this podcast, I think I don't remember. I think I was listening. They were talking about like why someone might prefer live action over animation, or right, someone might prefer animation over live action. And I think like the main thing was that animation is really good for like creating kind of anything your imagination can create. It could create things that you can't make in live action. I mean, obviously animation and live action can go together, right? Uh, but if it's just like there's already kind of limitations. Like you'll see people who are like, oh, let's make a live action version of like this anime or whatever. You're already going to hear people saying, "Oh, you can't though because it's animated, like it's already its own thing." But then there's also a side to live action where live action has things about people and like real life that you can't capture really in animation because it's just so like relatable and real. Like I remember like a specific example is like how people express their emotions. Like the way that a person expresses their emotions, like kind of an actor does it, it's kind of difficult to capture the exact same like feeling um as you would in if you actually saw a real person emoting, you know? And I think like it's kind of that way, but also for video games too. There's like kind of a difference between like, when you're watching an animation and then like actually being the person in the video game, like actually experiencing the story for yourself. I could provide an example. But in this game, like Final Fantasy 15 that I was playing in quarantine, which is like, you know, it was like it's a game that means a lot to me. You're this character and you go on a road trip. I'm not going to get too specific into it because it would be a lot because it's Final Fantasy and there's so much lore. But basically, you're going on this road trip and throughout the whole game, and then things change at some point and things kind of get sad. But it's like being on that road trip and hearing the characters talk to each other and like really, like I guess it's like it feels like you're kind of on the trip with them, like almost like you're on the ride with them because you're not the main character. I mean, some games you are the main character, but some games the character's still talking for himself. He's a totally different character than just for you to insert yourself in. But you can still feel like you're in there, like experiencing with the other characters. Like even if it's a little parasocial in that way, like even if there's like a two like one person relationship, you could still feel like you're a part of that relationship because you've experienced what they've experienced and you care about them. It's kind of the same as like it's a little bit of the same as a movie or show in that way. So it's not that different, but it is kind of to see every moment is a lot. It means a lot in a game. And it's something that games are really good about. Like it's kind of hard to replicate, really. It's why it's very difficult to make video game movies because video games are like or really adapt video games to anything unless you're I mean a show is kind of the exception because you can really take the time to build that. world, but it's hard to replicate a lot of games because of that, because of the relationship you have with the characters you're controlling and so
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying that as well, it I'm thinking of the how as an audience we participate with whatever it is we're viewing. If we're at a movie theater watching Dune, we're kind of invested, we're giving ourselves to, the authors or the director's imagination. So we're sort of immersing ourselves and opening to that. And so there is some participation in there. And it seems like with video games, there may even be more so, like more intimately, because you are actively playing the game and participating in this world that is being created that in some ways depends on your participation. And so it seems like I wonder if you're more in some ways emotionally invested in the games rather than when you go to a theater and watch, watch a movie.
yeah, I do think to a degree, I think it's the same again. I do think there are some things that movies and shows can have over a game. But I think it's like, yeah, it's very unique in that way where you can have like a very special connection. And I think it's I think it's something that I would like to try and replicate with my own media. Um, Although I don't know, again, maybe it's just my brain like wiring itself to the video games because that's like the media that I've experienced most of my life, or at least enjoyed the most of my life. So, but sorry, but I think I don't know. I mean, there's also certain things that games can do that you can't really do in movies or shows. Like some games can be, I don't know, they can be created in a certain way that's very unique to a video game. And then it can, how kind of, I want to say like kind of satire in a way. Like then there are like extra layers where people can make a game style and then have a twist of that game style. Um, and then it's like, well, this is something new. And that's something I mean, there are movie styles, but it's kind of hard to replicate um, those video game styles in the way that, or even, I guess, video game genres, right? It's kind of difficult to replicate that in any form at all. Um, like, so I'm trying to think of if I should provide an example because it is kind of hard to explain like generally, but like I guess it's it's all like it could be built in unique ways. Um, so my mind can like, I guess, come up with ideas that I don't think I'd ever be able to come up with for a movie. Like my mind is just like, oh, but I could do this. And, you know, I guess I also think like maybe a better example of what I was talking about is like how much the player wants to interact with the world. Like if let's say you're playing an open world game, which is like Zelda Breath of the Wild or something. You can just do the main story, but there's also a ton of side stuff you could do. And that stuff in a way is like kind of creating your own relationship with the game or with the experience of playing it because you're like investing your own time into it and you're you're doing, the optional stuff. So it's like I'm tr- I'm repeating myself a little bit, but it's it's kind of like it's your own experience, it's your own journey. Whereas like a movie or show, everyone kind of has a very similar journey. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it could depend on the show or the movie, but a game is much. It's I get at least the different experiences are. It's going to be much easier to access a different experience compared to other stuff. and you can share those experiences with other people. Like you could just talk to other people about it, and you're like, it's kind of cool in that way. I think, you know, it's also like if you don't like a certain game that much, you can just zoom straight through it, or you could just experience it, take your time with it. And I mean, again, the experiences are going to be very different, but you know, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure kind of thing, you know? You have a lot of choices as to how you want to play. And the best kind of games are the ones that provide those kind of choices, at least for the most part.
That brings up a an interesting question in my mind. And it's not just about video games, but um, when I think about how humans are evolving, and I think about your generation, and when you're talking about the video games and having a lot of choices or more choices, it just kind of um, I started thinking about this is, you know, we my generation was more of the generation of binaries, everything's very black and white way of thinking. And it seems like the younger generation is more expansive in terms of uh, being more non-binary in terms of the way of looking and interpreting their reality and the world. And I just kind of wanted to know if you could speak on that because, the video game just brought that up. So,
And I never really thought of it that way, actually. Maybe like the way video games are kind of does influence it a little bit because my generation grows up with video games a lot, and they grow up with like kind of, I don't know, video games kind of changed a lot from years to years. Like it kind of changed dramatically as technology evolved dramatically because it is kind of crazy to me that like within like the past 10 years, like we've gotten so much at like the technology has only gotten more advanced as and it's kind of very quick in that way. And I think that does kind of like what we experience kind of does change that. It does. I guess the way we look at life is different a little bit because of that. Um, and I think that's cool. I think it's cool that you know we we see that it's not as maybe. I mean, it's also not. We also have a lot of options because as we move into the future, more options present itself generally because we have more stuff we're able to create and stuff like that. So I think I guess in that way, it's kind of I don't know how to kind of get it out, like express it properly, but I think I think those options are cool, and I think the most revolutionary games in a way are the ones that like comment on like people having those options, like they're able to replicate like at least the most powerful games with stories usually comment on like the experience of being a person, and they're able to express that through a game, and it allows you to kind of experience someone else's experience but in a completely unique way because it's a video game. I mean, you're not literally experiencing someone else's life through like playing their life, like you're playing their life, but their life is different. It's something. I mean, like a movie, their life is going to be different from yours, but also like you have to experience it in a way where it's also fun, or at least providing an emotion from the gameplay experience. Like not all games are like quote unquote fun. Sometimes they're intentionally built to be giving you like negative feelings even, but they have to be engaging, right? Like with the controller. So, you know, in that way, I think we've kind of they've come so far that now it's like they're able to like circle back around to like talking about kind of complicated topics like how like people changing or you know, I don't know. I'm just trying to, but yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking about it now because I never really thought about it in this kind of way, you know. Um, but really, it is those games where they make it's like the most impactful stories in video games often are about people changing and you being able to see that change and even being able to learn about it from your own experience. Like, it's, yeah.
Yeah, I think you explained it really well. I find it fascinating because I mean, where the video games are being made and the stories are being made by, people like you who's interested in writing the stories and so artists that are using their imaginations and creativity to bring forth certain questions, to question certain ideas that we might question our conditioning, the way that we're conditioned to look at things and to think about the world. And I think through video games and other creative mediums, we are able to do that. And for me, the generation that the people that are thinking more in terms of more expansive, non-binary ways of thinking, it feels more in alignment with I don't with truth. And when I not truth with like the ultimate reality, but like it seems more of the idea that we know everything, that we have such fixed ideas of certain things. And I think what tends to happen is we create these fixed identities about who we are, about who society says we are. From the day you're born, you say you're this, you're that, and then to feel love and support, you take on those beliefs and you kind of go with the program and say, okay, I'm this. And whereas inside you may not feel that, and because you're not feeling that inside, you may start to think that something's wrong with you. Like, oh, something's wrong with me because I don't feel that, but I'm supposed to be, this, or, I'm supposed to be, I was born male, but I feel like a woman, like, and it could cause a lot of inner conflict and things of that nature. And and it, it could be anything. It could be like I grew up in a family that were Democrats or Republicans, and they said you're a Republican. You grow up thinking that, that's what I am because my family's that. And so to be able to get to a place of being able to kind of experiment and to form your own sense of who you are really has I think, a big impact on how you look at the world, and how you are in the world, really. So I think it's very encouraging that there are people now, especially the younger generation, that are making this path for people and opening this up so that others are able to more comfortably um, explore themselves and question, things about themselves and video games maybe being a sort of avenue to explore that. Um, so one of the questions I have is, who's an inspiration for you creatively, or is there a gamer or a storyteller whoever that you kind of look to for inspiration.
Yeah, well, there's one guy who comes to mind, this guy named his YouTuber name, he's a YouTuber, but he makes these video essays, which are like these hour-long kind of half documentaries in a way. Um there or I mean it's a documentary that kind of unfolds on itself, it's about something. And his name is Super Eye Wolf. Um and he makes videos about all kinds of things. I guess whatever he wants, but I guess it's the way he's a very, I don't know, whenever he makes a video about something, it's always for a reason. It's like he's trying to learn something, and at the end of the video, he always says what he learned, or like maybe a point he's trying to prove at the end of the video. And I think whenever he gets to those points, they're like very powerful because these videos usually they're an hour long, right? Or maybe 30 minutes long, or they're pretty long though. And whenever he talk, even if it's just, I mean, let's just be like, I'm gonna be real. He generally talks about like anime, video games, media of that kind. But when he does talk about it, and or he talks about a certain point, or he gets to the end of the video and he's talking about like what he gathered from everything he's discovered or talked about, he talks about something very powerful. And I really appreciate that all the time. It makes me motivated like every time I watch one of his videos. Um, but yeah, actually, he's kind of a, I don't know, and that I guess I don't know, I don't even remember when I started watching his videos. I mean, I think it was from one of his Final Fantasy videos. But yeah, and that um another person is, I have a friend who is currently like living on his own with his partner. And I met him in high school, and he's always kind of been, I mean, I don't even want to just pin it on him because I'm a part of a whole friend group, and he brought me to that friend group with him and his partner and um my other friend from that group who's currently trying to stream, But all these people, they live their own lives, and whether they're just living on their own or they're like living with their parents, or but they're working and they're trying to build their lives, it always does push me to try to, I guess, pursue what I want to do, because sometimes it feels like I'm supposed to be going in a certain direction. But like we were talking about before, they remind me that I have like those options with my life. Like I can like, I don't know, like talking to them is like, oh, what are you doing this week? I don't know. Just even talking to them is like, like, oh, I can get through the week. I can, I'm trying to like describe, put it in like words, like how it feels, but it's like, I don't know, I guess during, uh, not during the week, but like, I don't know, it pushes me to see other people in my same group or lane, who are working hard or going through even a hard time, and seeing them try to overcome it is very motivating. It makes me want to keep up or just, stick around. So it's very, you know, motivational in that way. So
Yeah, I think it's so important to um this does have that sense of community, of support. Um, I think sometimes that could be missing, in we're in a world now that, most of us are behind our screens and, and I certainly am, and not really connecting as much as I would like with my friends and people and so and when I'm in that space, you could you could tend to think that oh, I'm the only one that's going through this thing and it's kind of me against the world, like everyone is kind of you know um I feel called to do this, but everyone else is doing this, you know. And so when talk to that friend who's like, yeah, I completely understand like what you're talking about, it makes total sense to me, then it can be very comforting and reassuring. Um, so we're coming up to towards the end of the podcast. And just wanted to ask, like, what are you working on any projects now? Or I did watch your YouTube. I forget the one. It was talking about I thought it had something to do with math, but I might be incorrect, but it was really, really good. Yeah.
I know. No, I mean it was Geometry Dash, which despite the name has actually nothing to really do with math outside of like everything is like a simple shape. Sort of. I mean now they changed the game, so now it's kind of more detailed. But I was mostly making a video because I was talking about how um the game kind of teaches you how well it like teaches the player kind of like resilience with the that kind of game because it's tough and it requires a lot of attention. So I was like talking about how it teaches you to do that stuff real well and how I've kind of applied that to my own life. But I mean, that video got a lot of traction, but I wasn't expecting it to get a lot of traction. I mean, I was kind of expecting people to like it, but I wasn't expecting it to get me that much attention. But I try to make YouTube videos a lot right now, on Sharf, self promo. But yeah, I try to make right now I'm trying to make a video on Final Fantasy 16, and I want to like kind of shift it from like because I've kind of been making a lot of games about gameplay focused stuff. I want to make something about writing because that's kind of where I want to pursue. I mean, I like video games a lot, but overall, I prefer writing. Like, I mean, I could write a show. I'm not saying that I could do anything, but I'm saying I would if given the opportunity. If someone was like, "Hey, Jake, here's a show," I'd write a show. If someone said, "You want an opportunity to try writing a book?" I mean, a book I might not be as excited, but I mean, I'm really just generally into it. I like writing a lot. So I want to make a video about that, and I'm trying to write a script of my own. It's kind of slow, but I, I initially I was trying to write it like a show because I was trying to find out the direction that I wanted to make this idea. So I wrote like an episode one for a show, like a pilot. And now I'm thinking realistically I could make it a game, I think. Like it would be a lot of story, but I think I could cut it up so it'd be digestible as a game. So I think I'm changing the script to at least the episode two into more of a video game, which I think is okay. Because at least if I have the episode one, I could just send it to someone. I could be like, here's my idea, and this is it like a show. And then someone reads it like, oh, yeah, I can see this. But now, if they want to read more, they can see as what it would be like as a video game. And that's cool too. So
Great. So what was your YouTube channel again?
it's Sharf, Sharff, and on YouTube. And you can see it. I got 1,000 subscribers recently, which is crazy because people really like that Geometry Dash video for some reason. But yeah, I got that, so it'll come up probably, which is nice.
And so the geometry dash, was that expected, or did you just post it and then notice that, views were just piling up?
Um, it was kind of a yes and no. Like I felt like when I was making the video, I was like, "Oh, this is a good video. I think people will watch this." I didn't expect it to get like the amount of like attention it did. And when a video gets kind of that kind of attention, I get a little scared because I don't want people to expect me to make that genre. Like I realized I appealed to the fan base of Geometry Dash a lot because I realized people commenting on my video were those fans. And then I realized, okay, well, I don't want these people to think I'm gonna make more Geometry Dash videos. And then also then it was even suggested to me by a few people, hey, you should make another Geometry Dash video. And I'm not playing Geometry Dash anymore. I'm not. I mean, I play it sometimes. It's like a lifelong game of mine. It's like I keep up with it, but it's not like I'm watching it or playing it every day anymore, like I was at one point. But now I have like several, what they call hyperfixations. And now I'm hyperfixated on a different thing, and I want to make a video about that thing. And I'm scared that if I make that video and post it, it might not get the same traction. I mean, I'm not going to be upset if it doesn't. I'm not going to be like, no, I should have. No, like it is what it is. I made it and I'm proud of it either way. But I feel like now if I make Geometry Dash videos, people are going to watch those instead of whatever I make, which I don't want.
Yeah, you're gonna become the Geometry Dash person. So Jacob, thank you for this conversation. It was really interesting. And yeah, everyone go to his YouTube channel. I think you said Sharf.
It's like sharp off. I cut like a removed part last name.
Okay, so it's Sharf, and it's on YouTube. Check out the Geometry Dash and the other videos. And thank you for another episode of Toussaint Warrior Trials. I'm here with Jacob Shartoff and having a conversation about dyslexia, creativity, video games, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Thank you for joining. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, and share. Hi, hope you enjoyed that episode with Jake Shartoff. I found it fascinating. Just listening to his perspective. And also, one of the things that I enjoyed is this was my first in-person episode, and it's I've been doing a lot of them on Zoom, and I particularly liked doing it in person, and you can expect more of the in-person podcast coming from me because there's something about just being in the same energy field as someone else. And Jake, he has a really nice energy, and and so he's really easy to talk to, it was also nice speaking to someone of the younger generation and hearing some of his ideas on life and just the way that he thinks about things. I found was really interesting. And yeah, so I hope you did too. And again, if you like this episode, please comment and hit the like button, and please subscribe. And also, if you have ideas for topics that you'd like to see or listen to, share that in the comment section as well. And also, lastly, I'm looking for stories, challenges. If you had something that some challenge in life that you struggled with, and you found resources, you found a way to kind of get through this thing. It could be anything: a struggle with anxiety, depression, financial struggles. Please share your story with me. I'd love to hear it because we all go through these things, and my intention with this podcast is to create a community where we're sharing about these things, and we're sharing useful tools that can help other people that are going through it. So not only it's really helpful when you hear that other people are going through similar things in life, because it makes you feel not as alone. Because let's face it, we're all human. We all struggle with depression at times, anxiety, financial stuff, especially in the era that we're living in now. It's a pretty tough time. And, so please share your story. Let us know. It could be helpful. I'm not sure what I'll do with it. Maybe I'd have you on the podcast, or maybe I'll share the story in some form. But, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a message in the comment section, or go to my Instagram, page, and you can send me a direct message there as well. And that's at Toussaint Warrior. The title of this podcast. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube and on Spotify. So, yeah, be well. Take care. Bye.